The rain was not heavy that evening, just small drops that touched my face and made my wrapper a bit wet. I stood at the bus stop beside the main road, waiting for the next bus going to Abakpa. I had just finished from the hospital where I went to collect my test result. My body had been feeling weak for some time, but I did not want to worry anybody. Life had not been easy since Chike, my husband, died. It was 3 years now, but some days still felt like the very week he left me. The road was quiet, only few people were around, each person holding one bag or the other, looking tired and ready to go home. I held my nylon bag close to my chest. Inside it was the medicine the nurse gave me. I was thinking of how much money was left in my purse and how I would manage till month end when a man came to stand beside me. At first I did not notice him well. He just greeted me calmly and looked away. His voice was deep, gentle. Then he turned again and said my name. Ngozi Eze. I froze a bit. I did not know this man. His face did not look like anybody from church, from the market, or from my husband's old friends. I looked at him again. He was tall, dark, and clean. He wore a blue shirt and brown trouser, carried a small black bag on his shoulder. I asked him who he was. He smiled a little, like somebody remembering something sweet and painful at the same time. He said he used to know my husband, Chike. He said Chike always talked about how much I liked roasted corn by the roadside whenever we travelled. My heart jumped. Nobody outside my home knew that thing. Even my neighbours did not know. I took a small step backward. My eyes went to his face again. He looked harmless, but something about him made my chest heavy. He continued talking like we were old friends. He mentioned my son's name, Emeka, and even asked how my small poultry was doing. I did not know if I should run, shout, or listen. My mind was full. How did he know all this? I asked him again who he was and how he knew so much about my family. He sighed and said his name was Benson. He said he worked with Chike long ago before he died. Then he looked down at the wet ground and said something that made my knees weak. He said, "Madam, your husband did not just die in a car accident." The rain started falling heavier at that time, but I did not move. My ears were ringing and my heart was beating fast. I looked at the man again and felt fear and curiosity fighting inside me. I wanted to walk away, but something in me said to wait. I needed to hear what this man knew about my husband, even if it would break me. The rain was falling harder, but the man called Benson did not move from where he stood. Water was running down his face and his shirt was soaked, yet he kept looking at me like he had something heavy on his heart. I was shaking, not from cold, but from fear. I told him to talk fast because I wanted to leave, but he said I needed to listen carefully before I decided anything. He said he and Chike worked together in a big construction company in Enugu, the same one that handled government projects. He said my husband was one of the few honest men in that place. According to him, Chike found out that some of the people at the top were stealing money and using fake names to collect millions meant for roadwork and schools. My husband wanted to report them, but Benson said they warned him to keep quiet. I remembered how, before Chike died, he started acting different. He would come home late, sometimes sit outside for long without talking. When I asked what was wrong, he always said everything was fine. There were days he would whisper on the phone and hang up quickly when I entered the room. He said he was just talking to his site workers, and I believed him. Now, as Benson was talking, I began to see those days clearly again. The worry in my husband's eyes, the way he locked his briefcase, the fear that sometimes made him pray in the middle of the night. Benson said Chike gathered proof of the fraud and planned to expose it. But before he could, some men started following him. Benson claimed he begged Chike to stop and forget everything, that the people were dangerous. But my husband said he could not keep quiet when innocent people were suffering because of the stolen money. I felt tears on my cheeks. The rain had reduced to small drops again, but my inside was shaking. I asked Benson what really happened to Chike's car that night. The police said brake failure. Benson looked away, then said the company's driver that fixed cars disappeared the same week my husband died. He said the car might have been tampered with. He also said Chike sent a letter to himself through the office mail one day before the accident, but that letter never reached him. He opened his black bag and brought out an old brown envelope. He said it belonged to my husband. He told me to take it, that it was time to know the truth. I did not know what to do. My hand was shaking as I collected it. The envelope was soft from age, and there was my husband's handwriting on top. Standing there in the quiet after the rain, I knew my life was about to change again. The pain I had buried was coming back to life, and I was not ready for what it might show me. When I got home that night, the sky was already dark. Power had gone off as usual, and the only light in the house came from my small rechargeable lamp. I locked the door and dropped my wet bag on the table. My mind was still on the man at the bus stop. I was not sure if I had met a helper or a liar. The brown envelope was still in my hand. I sat down and looked at it for a long time. My fingers were shaking. I thought of my husband's smile, his deep voice, the way he used to call me Ngoo baby when he wanted to make me laugh. It hurt to remember that he was gone, and now this stranger was saying his death was not an accident. I opened the envelope slowly. Inside it were 3 photographs, 2 folded papers, and something that looked like a photocopy of a document. My eyes caught my husband's handwriting on one of the folded papers. My heart began to beat fast. I opened it and started reading. The letter was short, but it carried pain. He said if anything ever happened to him, I should not allow anyone from his office to come close to our land or his files. He said he had kept some papers safe inside a waterproof bag buried under the ground near the poultry house behind our building. He said those papers were the truth that could expose bad men. He also wrote that he was sorry for hiding it from me, that he did not want me or our son to be in danger. I covered my mouth with my hand. Tears filled my eyes. All this time, something was hidden right behind our house, and I never knew. I looked at the other papers in the envelope. One was a copy of a land document with strange names written on it. Another one had some figures and signatures that I did not understand. The photographs showed men in suits standing near some heavy machines, but I recognized one of them. He was the man who came for Chike's burial and gave me a white envelope as condolence. I felt my stomach turn. That same man had hugged me and said, "God gives and takes." I started shaking. I sat there till midnight, reading and thinking, should I tell somebody? Who would believe me? What if Benson was lying and this was all a trap? Sleep refused to come that night. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing my husband's voice in my mind. It was like he was saying, "Ngoo, don't be afraid. Do the right thing." By morning, I made up my mind. I was going to dig behind the poultry house and see if what Chike wrote in the letter was true. The next morning was bright, but my heart was heavy. I did not even eat before going outside. I carried a small hoe and shovel and went behind the poultry house. The ground there was covered with dry leaves and a few old feed sacks. I looked around first to make sure no neighbour was watching. I did not want anybody to start asking questions. I started digging slowly. The soil was dry at first, then it began to feel softer. Sweat was rolling down my face even though the morning was still cool. I kept thinking of Chike. Every time my hoe hit the ground, I imagined he was there with me, guiding my hands. After some minutes, I hit something hard. My heart jumped. I knelt down and used my hands to clear the sand. It was a small black waterproof bag, tied tightly with rope. I pulled it out carefully, dusted it and opened it. Inside were more papers and one small flash drive, sealed in nylon. The papers had company letterheads, signatures and some receipts. Most of the names were the same ones I saw in the brown envelope. I sat on the ground, breathing fast. So my husband had truly hidden something here. The letter was real. Everything Benson said was true. I looked up at the sky and tears rolled down my face. I went inside the house and washed my hands. I kept the documents inside my cupboard and locked it. Then I picked my phone and called the number Benson wrote on the back of one of the papers. He picked immediately, like he had been waiting for me. He asked if I found the bag. I said yes. He told me I should not tell anybody about it yet. He said the people involved were still powerful and could harm me. He also said there was one journalist in Enugu who used to work with Chike on the project, a man my husband trusted. He gave me the man's address and said if I truly wanted to finish what Chike started, that was the person to see. When I dropped the call, my body was shaking again. I was afraid, but also angry. They took my husband and left me with pain, and now I had the proof that could expose them. That night, I could not sleep. I packed the papers in a polythene bag and kept it under my bed. Every sound outside made me jump. Even when the wind blew the window open, my heart skipped. But deep inside me, I knew there was no turning back. Chike's voice was still in my heart, calm and strong. He wanted the truth to come out, and I was going to make sure it did, even if it scared me. The next morning, I woke up early before the sun came out. My stomach was tight and empty, but I could not eat. I dressed in a simple gown and wrapped my head with scarf. I placed the documents inside my bag and locked my door. The whole street was still quiet. Even the birds were not making much noise. I took a bus to town and stopped at a small cafe where I was told the journalist usually stayed to write. The name Benson gave me was Mr. Uche. I asked one of the waiters if he knew him, and he pointed to a man sitting near the window with a cup of tea and a small laptop. I walked to him slowly, holding my bag tight. When I mentioned Chike's name, the man looked up sharply. His eyes softened after a while, and he asked me to sit. I told him everything, from the day I met Benson at the bus stop to the letter I found and the bag I dug up. I showed him the papers and the flash drive. He spent long minutes looking through them, shaking his head now and then. He said my husband was a brave man. He said he knew Chike wanted to expose the corruption but died before he could publish the evidence. He promised that he would help me finish what Chike started. He said he would contact some people he trusted and make sure the story came out safely. I left his place feeling lighter, but I was still afraid. I went home and stayed indoors for days, praying every night. One afternoon, Benson called me again. His voice was calm but far away. He said he was leaving the country for some time, that things might get rough when the story came out. He told me to be strong and look after myself and my son. After that call, his number stopped going through. 2 weeks later, the news broke. The papers carried a big headline about a corruption scandal in a construction company. The names in the story were the same ones from the documents. People in government were talking, and police had started investigations. My neighbours did not know I had any hand in it. I just sat in my house, watching the news with tears in my eyes. That evening, I went to the same bus stop where I met Benson. The sky was calm and red from sunset. I stood there for a long time, waiting, even though I knew he would not come back. I wanted to thank him, to tell him that the truth had finally come out. The bus to Abakpo arrived and I entered. As the bus moved, I looked through the window and whispered softly, "Chike, they know now. Your truth did not die." I smiled through my tears, feeling peace for the first time in years. The road ahead was long, but I was no longer afraid.